While I'm generally not one for believing new console rumors, especially when Nintendo representatives came forth and said there is no hardware under development and shut that down, the more leaks come out, the more they're like puzzle pieces coming together to release a jigsaw that there is a new Super Switch or Switch Pro or Switch 2 in development, and it might be coming out this year. Alrighty guys, sharing my screen, I have two articles pulled up. These will be sourced or cited down there in the description below. Anytime I cover any kind of news in the gaming community and industry, I always cite my sources. So I have two articles here. This one is by Games Radar from 4 days ago. And all of this information here that we're talking about today is about a new Switch dock that was basically data mined to be revealed with the codename Agragula. Why am I having a hard time with that? Aula, which as you guys probably know, is the code name for the new Switch in development. Switch Pro, Switch 2, Super Switch, whatever you want to call it. And honestly, for me, I kind of have to say this is the straw that broke the camel's back. Right here, this is, I guess, the tipping point for me that kind of is getting me on board with the idea, the notion that there is indeed a new Switch and we might actually see it late this year, perhaps holiday 21. So that is absolutely awesome. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how Nintendo doesn't really need to come out with a new console right now, as they are standing neck and neck with the brand new PS5 and Xbox Series S and X, which is pretty impressive considering that it's a 4-year-old device and it is savagely underpowered, but that's never really been what Nintendo's all about. I mean, you look at the Nintendo Wii, that was the best-selling console of the 7th generation over the Xbox 360 and PS3, and it was graphically quite subpar, but because it was so innovative with the Wii one that people were blasting through their TVs and snapping grandma's ankles and whatnot. And same thing with the Switch. I mean, it's a portable console that can be docked for home use, and the Joy-Cons are super versatile. There's like 6 different configurations you can use them in. So there has been several data mined files in a recently released software update for the Switch, 12.0.0. One file in particular makes reference to something called the Cradle Aula. You might recall that Aula, I'm probably mispronouncing that, but we all know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to call it Project A, was the code name previously data mined from past Switch software updates, thus revealing that it was going to be the Switch 2 Pro or Super Tomahawk Deluxe, whatever you want to call it. Now, if you're thinking the new code could be an update for an existing Switch dock, it is unlikely, as the current dock has actually never received an update in the 4 years it has been out. So it is highly unlikely that this update is just to buff or add a new feature or streamline the experience of the existing dock. It is definitely, to me, quite clearly, for a new piece of hardware. And just recently, a leak or report comes out saying that the Switch Pro could be launching at some point later this year in 2021. I'm not expecting that. That would be absolutely awesome. However, Nintendo blatantly came forward. Doug Bowser, the president, shot down rumors of a revised Switch model, stating that the console was currently at the midpoint of its overall life cycle, which again, it's only been out for 4 years. And they're selling phenomenally. They can't keep them on the shelves. They're selling like hotcakes, and they're competing with brand new hardware. So they don't need a new console. Now, don't get me wrong. It is savagely underpowered. It runs on an old Tegra CPU, which basically this is going to use an NVIDIA chip for upscaled 4K graphics. Now, that is in docked configuration. I have covered this leak when we got these specifications released, that in its handheld form, it will still be at 720p, which is currently what the Switch is at, which I know sounds horrible. I mean, 720p, nobody even considers that HD anymore, but you have to keep in mind, that's on a small screen, not to mention the new screen in the Switch Pro. So far, it's almost solidified that it is going to be OLED, which is going to be a huge, huge upgrade from the LED screen when it comes to lighting, obviously, as it is going to be each pixel individually backlit, so that's going to be awesome. And that's going to give you much, much more rich, vibrant colors, and it's going to look way better, even if it is still 720p. But in its docked configuration, you're looking at PS4 Pro-like performance at 4K, probably 4K30 or 4K60. Which, again, PS4 Pro horsepower in a Nintendo, that's not anything to scoff at by any means. The PS4 Pro was definitely a powerful console, and Nintendo, historically, if you look all the way back to the Wii, the Wii U, shoot, even the GameCube, they've always been underpowered compared to the competitors. If you're just looking at sheer graphical fidelity and frames per second, that's not really what they target. They target being innovative and having very, very unique first-party in-house studio offerings, such as Pokemon, Zelda, Animal Crossing, stuff like that. And that's why Nintendo fans play Nintendo games, is for the exclusives and the innovation and the hardware, not necessarily that they're the most powerful thing. If people want the most powerful experience, they're going to get a Xbox Series X, a PS5, or a gaming PC. And then if we come over here to this article from Pocket Lint, they say, it might not be the Switch Pro itself getting the 4K boost, it could be the dock instead. Well, that would make sense considering, like I mentioned earlier, in its handheld configuration, the built-in screen on the actual handheld device is still just the 720p. However, it is OLED now instead of LED. And there are some actual codes. These are the actual codes that were data mined right here, which refers to the firmware in the dock, a dedicated chip inside that could be used to upscale games to 4K, which is awesome. Also found in the code is line 4K DP underscore prefer blah 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 over USB 3.0. Further suggesting that 4K output possibly would be done through a DisplayPort connection and processed through USB-C. So we're getting more of a little hint, a little sneakeroo peek of some of the new hardware. So that is awesome. Now, I personally do believe that this is in reference to a new Switch console. Because in the 4 years we've had the Switch, we have never gotten an update for the dock. And I don't think Nintendo would start now. Now, granted, Nintendo did shoot down rumors publicly that there wasn't any new hardware in development. However, if you look historically at all of Nintendo's drops, they've always been rather hush-hush. They didn't have a lot of marketing behind them, and they didn't really start very early. They didn't start hyping up their consoles like Sony and Microsoft do. They kind of just 4 to 6 months out be like, guess what? Holiday, you can get one of these bad boys. So that might honestly be the case here, and I do think a new Switch would be very welcome, especially with a new NVIDIA chipset rather than the Tegra chipset. It will be able to hit higher frames per second, and overall, I don't think it's going to be a huge difference when it comes to like the controls. They're not going to be doing, a touchscreen back like the PS Vita had or anything like that. But again, the fact that you're going to get PS4 Pro-like performance in docked mode, that's very welcome. And in handheld mode, an OLED screen, increased battery life and frame rate, also very welcome changes. So I'm excited. I will be picking up I already got that one. I will be picking up a Switch Pro, Switch 2, Tomahawk Deluxe, Ankle Buster, whatever Nintendo calls this thing. Don't really care. It's going to be a good console. And I will be picking one up hopefully day one so I can do an unboxing and review for you guys. And I think that is just about going to do it, guys. Drop in the comment section below your opinion of the new Switch. Do you think this is just a leak with no meat and potatoes to it? So they're just dangling vegetables in front of our face with no substantial meat behind it? Me personally, I think there is some substantial information in this leak, and I do think that it is in reference to a new... I personally do think it is in reference to a new console. Could I be wrong? Yeah. Is it likely? No, heck no. I'm pretty accurate. But it is possible that I am incorrect in this. So that's why I want you guys to drop in the comment section below your opinion. We can get a little forum going on. Now, if you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more people, which in turn helps me to grow my little channel, which I greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover a lot of news in the gaming community and industry, as well as tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.